morning and welcome, everyone. I'm Michael Martin. I'm the Assistant Port Director here at the Port of San Francisco, and I'm proud and honored that the Port is hosting today's ceremonies at Piers 3032. I'd like to extend a special welcome to Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, Mayor London Breed, U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Richard W. Meyer, Ann Cronenberg, Stuart Milk, and of course, the crew of the USNS Harvey Milk. We welcome you and everyone in the audience today to the Port of San Francisco. One of the best things about working for the Port is the opportunity we have to see vessels of all kinds come to berth in front of the dazzling backdrop of the city and the bay. And I guess today I have to say rain or shine. But very few of those vessels have the emotional connection to San Francisco that this one does. As we gather to celebrate the legacy of Harvey Milk, we recall how he worked tirelessly to combat the discrimination and hatred directed at gay men and women during his lifetime. He championed the idea that no matter your sexual orientation, you must be afforded equal rights. He made great strides during his lifetime, and yet we know Harvey Milk's work is not done. Today, as we welcome the USNS Harvey Milk to San Francisco, let us find inspiration in Harvey Milk's life, which he spent dedicated to a vision of equality and authenticity for everyone, everywhere. Thank you again to everyone who made today possible. I would now like to introduce Louis Loven, the Executive Director of San Francisco Fleet Week. As an official U.S. Navy Community Ambassador, Louis worked tirelessly, including today tirelessly, to help organize the first port of call in San Francisco for the USNS Harvey Milk. Louis, the stage is yours.
I'm not as tall as you, Mike, so I'll lower the mic. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. And thank you to the many people at the Port of San Francisco whose efforts helped to make this event possible. We only had 3 weeks to pull all of this together, and if you've worked with ships and logistics and what have you, you know what a feat it was. Thank you to the City of San Francisco, to Military Sea Lift Command, to 3rd Fleet, and to the Navy Region Southwest, who supplied the brass band their participation today. So let's have it for them. And I want to give a special welcome to the high school students of the Junior ROTC program in San Francisco. Let's give them a round of applause. They're fantastic. Seeing you all here, it gives me hope for the future. There'll be somebody to take care of me when I'm old. You guys are an incredible group of people, these young high schoolers. A huge thank you to Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro, who personally supported this effort and kept in touch with me as the ongoings of the USNS Harvey Milk. And how about the Harvey Milk is here? That's just amazing. This is its maiden voyage. This is its first port visit, as Michael had said. And also to Stuart Milk and the Milk Foundation, I salute you all. Thank you for traveling to San Francisco, bringing the Milk family to San Francisco for this event. Today's a celebration of people seeing the right things to do. The right thing to do for social justice, for civil rights, for supporting people's pride in themselves and in those that they love. For a nation recognizing that Harvey Milk knew that what the right thing to do was to fight for the rights and then doing it. Thank you, Harvey Milk. As the United States Navy Ambassador to the City of San Francisco and as Executive Director of San Francisco Fleet Week, I have to recognize the Chairman of the Board for San Francisco Fleet Week, a Vietnam veteran and Gulf War veteran, Major General Mike Myatt, U.S. Marine Corps. Woo! But I have to say that I found the effort to get the Harvey Milk up here to be quite consistent with the goals and objectives of Fleet Week, the Fleet Week values of supporting our troops, supporting our community, and supporting humanitarianism. Troops, Harvey Milk's troops were his supporters. He gave them leadership and legitimacy. People like Ann Cronenberg, who you will hear from later in this program, and all of Harvey's allies who took action to get him elected and to build a foundation of political relevancy. Community, the community, here we are, the community that he represented and embraced, and they embraced him. Here today, San Franciscans can live and feel safe and be afforded the opportunity to excel for who they are. The United States knew it was the United States Navy knew it was the right thing to do, and they did it by naming a United States Navy ship to honor Harvey Milk. So San Francisco, let's continue to do the right thing. And speaking of the right thing, I introduce to you one of Fleet Week's greatest supporters, a person who leads with our community's values in mind at all times, our mayor, London Breed.
Thank you, Louis, and the Fleet Week Association for all the amazing work that you do to make sure that San Francisco is at the forefront of having one of the most significant Fleet Week celebrations anywhere in the country. And let me just say how proud I am to be here to welcome the U.S. Harvey Milk ship home. This is the original home, and where it has been named. And I remember years back when our former mayor, Ed Lee, along with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and others were there during that naming ceremony. And Scott Wiener was a supervisor at the time, and he has continued to carry on the legacy of Harvey Milk as a former representative for the Castro, and now with us today is the current supervisor who represents the Castro and other neighborhoods around District 8, Supervisor Rafael Mandelman. You know, it's so wonderful that the Harvey Milk ship can spend a few days in our beautiful city before she heads to her first mission. And isn't that cool, Stuart, that this is a girl named after a boy? That's so San Francisco, right? I want to really thank the Navy Secretary Carlos del Toro for bringing the Harvey Milk ship to San Francisco. We had a chance to experience his presence here last year in San Francisco. I also want to thank our fearless leader, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, for just really spearheading this effort. Like she does so many things for San Francisco. She is a force in and of itself, and I am so glad that she represents San Francisco. I also want to thank San Francisco's Fleet Week Association for bringing us together to celebrate this very special homecoming. This iconic ship, as we know, will deliver food, fuel, supplies, repair parts, and materials to the U.S. Navy and allied ships while at sea. And it also represents some of the most important values San Francisco prides itself on: inclusion, diversity, and representation. The Harvey Milk ship is the first U.S. Navy ship named after an LGBTQ rights leader and Navy veteran. It symbolizes the love we have as a city for all people and honors our beloved Harvey Milk, who spent his life and his career fighting for the LGBTQ community here in San Francisco, which has had a significant impact not just in the United States, but all over the world. There was a time in our not-so-distant memory when this would have been impossible. And so it is that even more special that we are here today. San Francisco has long been at the forefront of LGBTQ movement, and it's been an honor to continue our traditions through events like today and that promote acceptance and inclusion. It is so exciting to see this happening in San Francisco, and I can't think of a better way to celebrate his incredible legacy than what we're doing. What we are seeing now, the Giants season is about to kick off. Fleet Week is, well, coming later this fall. And in fact, today is National Veterans Day in the country, and I want to take this opportunity, including Major General Mike Myatt and other Vietnam War veterans that are joining us here today. Thank you for your service and your commitment to our country and your service. We are so happy to have so many of you here today. And I also want to thank the U.S. Navy and other institutions for your financial support of making sure that ROTC programs remain in our public schools here in San Francisco. And finally, I'm so happy to see Stewart Milk here in San Francisco fighting the great fight, not just for our city, but for people all over the country. The work you do is extraordinary, and you carry on your uncle's legacy so proudly. And so we are so happy to have you. And Ann Cronenberg, we miss you in San Francisco. She retired from the Department of Emergency Management and is hiding out just a little bit, but luckily we have your daughter working with us too. So we are so glad to see such a great group of people here to celebrate such an historic figure. Thank you all so much for coming. And with that, I am excited to invite the U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Richard Meyer to say a few words on this very special occasion. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor Breed, for that very kind introduction. And on behalf of the U.S. Navy, including the master and crew of this vessel, thank you for your hospitality in welcoming the United States naval ship Harvey Milk to San Francisco. Speaker Emerita Pelosi, thank you for honoring us and this ship today with your attendance at this special San Francisco port visit of the Harvey Milk, a ship named after a key civil rights and visionary leader for San Francisco. Stewart Milk, Ann Cronenberg, thank you both for being here to celebrate this ship and Harvey Milk. And Paula Nera, the ship's sponsor, thank you for riding it up and for being here with us today as well. And finally, Lewis Levin, thank you for your persistence to help bring USNS Harvey Milk to San Francisco and inviting me to celebrate with you and this great city. As a local San Francisco Bay Area resident, I am honored to get to be here with all of you today. Our Navy ships' names are important because they express what we value as a Navy and as a nation. A ship's name communicates those values around the globe and at every port of call and wherever a ship sails. For exactly this reason, the ship behind me, or here with us today, here, is very special. She is the second of the John Lewis class of fleet oilers. Each of the ships in this class will bear the name of a prominent civil rights leader. We are so proud this ship carries the name Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk, the man, spent a good portion of his life as a champion of equality and universal rights. He joined the Navy during the Korean War, serving as a diving officer on the submarine rescue ship USS Kittiwake. He was discharged from the Navy in 1955 at the rank of lieutenant junior grade. Though Harvey Milk distinguished himself as a naval officer, unfortunately, like so many others who served our nation in uniform, he had to hide a very important part of himself as he served. And for far too long, sailors like Lieutenant Milk were forced into shadows, or worse yet, forced out of the Navy. That injustice is part of our Navy history, but so too is the perseverance of all who continue to serve in the face of injustice. I am proud to say that today's Navy, we welcome everyone. Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro, has been clear that one of his top priorities is to maintain a culture of dignity and respect and afford equal opportunity to everyone who serves in uniform and as civilian employees. That's everyone, regardless of race, religion, color, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, or national origin. That's the simple fairness that Harvey Milk fought for his entire life, and as an outspoken activist, and as a young lieutenant serving with quiet dignity. Our inclusive force is more effective when it reflects the broad diversity of the US population. Our Navy is stronger for the service of the many great members of the LGBTQ+ community who wear our uniform and work in our civilian ranks. Around the world and around the clock, they keep the watch and protect us all. Although his own life was cut short at the age of 48, Harvey Milk's vision and spirit live on, inspiring others to join the cause of equality and opportunity for everyone. With the name Harvey Milk emblazoned on this ship, we honor his lifetime of selflessness and service and his hope for equality and a world without hate. Harvey Milk, the ship, measures 648 feet in length, more than 2 football fields. She can sustain a speed of 20 knots, which is greater than 23 miles per hour, for more than 7,000 miles. She can carry more than 5 million gallons of liquid cargo or fuel and carry over 90,000 cubic feet of dry and refrigerated cargo with the capability of replenishing 3 ships at the same time. USNS Harvey Milk is truly a technological marvel. With enhanced capabilities in cargo storage, delivery of fuel, Harvey Milk will support our Navy as we keep our country safe, far from home, and protect sea lanes for international trade. This ship is critical to our economic vitality and the support of our allies and partners. She will help promote freedom of access in international seas, help combat the acute threat of Russia and the pacing threat of China, and help maintain rules-based international order. Our warships will rely on the Harvey Milk to keep our aircraft flying, our ships steaming, and our men and women fed. This enables our fleet to achieve the full range of missions conducted forward deployed in the defense of our nation. Harvey Milk, like all of our USNS-designated non-commissioned ships, goes into harm's way unarmed by naval standards and crewed by civilian mariners, sailors who at great personal risk put service before self and mission before individual well-being. Given the mission of this vessel and the unarmed, nonviolent means of executing that mission, it is wholly appropriate to name this class of vessels after civil rights icons throughout our history. Men and women who fought for our collective dignity and human rights courageously and nonviolently. USNS Harvey Milk is the first ship named after this exceptional American, a Navy veteran, a naval officer, an elected official, and a civil rights hero. While we lost him too early, his legacy lives on as a critical catalyst for positive change and a powerful beacon for all of us to follow. He lived his life to help others and certainly lived a life of meaning and purpose, striving to make us a better nation, more inclusive and more just. Today, the ship's master, Jim White, and the crew of Harvey Milk, all civilian mariners, will operate this ship with the same tenacity and courage displayed by Harvey Milk and be ready to meet any challenges they may face. His crew will carry her namesake's legacy and represent his courage of conviction, always fighting for right. It has been my honor and privilege to be with you here today on this significant occasion. And once again, I want to thank all of you for being here to welcome the USNS Harvey Milk to San Francisco. And now it's my additional honor to introduce a very special person. She's been introduced already, but Miss Ann Cronenberg is the matron of the USNS Harvey Milk. Ann was Harvey Milk's campaign manager and his aide at City Hall, and she is also a co-founder of the Harvey Milk Foundation. Ann has devoted her entire career to public service. Please join me in welcoming Ann Cronenberg.
Thank you, Admiral. I really appreciate that introduction. I am not going to speak long. Other people have talked about how wonderful Harvey was, and you're going to hear from Harvey's nephew, Stuart, right after I speak, so I know he's going to give you many more details. What I wanted to talk about just real quickly was what Harvey meant to me as a person. I was 21 when I met Harvey Milk. I'm just a little bit older now. And meeting him and getting to know what he was about and his passion, not only for LGBTQ rights, but for human rights. He talked about getting all people together who had been disenfranchised. And if we were all together, we would be a voting bloc and we could change the system. He really believed that. When I see what has happened since he was assassinated, you know, the stamp named after him, an airport terminal in San Francisco, his work continues to go on. The legacy continues through the Harvey Milk Foundation and all the great work that Stuart and all the others in the foundation are doing, not just in the United States, but around the world. It's quite amazing to me. Harvey was my friend. He was my mentor. Everything I learned about politics, I learned from Harvey Milk. And he was also like a dad to me. And so losing him was probably the most devastating part of my life. But seeing the resurrection of everything that came after his death is so remarkable to me. He had two messages for us that were messages he pounded into us when we were young kids and we were out there pounding the streets. One was you have to give them hope. You have to make sure that people have hope in the world, that you may feel different, and your difference may feel like you don't have any place to fit in, but you do, and each and every one of us is special, and he empowered us to feel that specialness. The other thing he harped on constantly was you have to vote, because that's how you empower yourself. That's how you gain that power. And with everything going on in the world today and how much disarray we're in, we need that hope and we need to be able to vote and make a difference. And we can do that as individuals. So I encourage you all to continue his message. And Harvey is dancing a jig up there right now. I know Harvey, or cracking jokes about his name on this beautiful ship. So, I forgot to thank Master White, Captain White, and all the crew of the Harvey Milk. Thank you so much. And of course, all our distinguished speakers here today who are keeping San Francisco and the whole Bay Area safe, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's my honor now to introduce Stuart Milk. I didn't know Stuart when I worked for Harvey. He was just a mere kid. He was barely a teenager at the time. Harvey was 15 when his uncle was assassinated. And Stuart has made it his life work to continue Harvey's legacy. And he travels literally all around the world. Sometimes we forget when we live in the bubble of San Francisco what's going on in other parts of the world and the discrimination. And how there are parts of the world still, and you know it, where lesbian and gay men can be killed if it is found out what their sexual orientation is. Stuart goes out and spreads the word through the foundation and with all the wonderful volunteers with the foundation. So Stuart, I love you. Come on up here. You're going to hear more about the uncle, but hey.
I'm always so honored when, I don't know if you caught it, Ann, but every once in a while she calls me Harvey, which you just did, so, and there's no greater honor than that. So sometimes we're on the phone and she says, oh, Harvey, so.
Well, his voice sounds so much like Harvey's did. He's taller, but a lot of his.
Thank you. This is amazing to be here today. I have so many people to thank, and I'll be able to introduce someone who also has a lot to do with where we are today. But let me start out by thanking Fleet Week and everyone behind Fleet Week. You know, they worked with Ann and me on the naming ceremony and Speaker Pelosi's office, which was 2016. So the naming ceremony was 2016, and here we are 8 years later to where we actually now have a ship. And we've been able to actually form a wonderful bond with the people involved in the ship. In particular, I want to point out, and he's hiding in the back, I'm going to make him come up front for a minute. The captain has really taken on the legacy. Please come up, Captain. The legacy of Harvey. And I want to thank you, Captain. There is memorabilia all over the ship about Harvey, teaching the crew who Harvey was. I know I already gave you a challenge coin. I'm giving you another one. And thank you for everything that you're doing, keeping my uncle's legacy alive. I also want to point out that we have with us the international court system. So the first people to call for a ship was the international court system led by Nicole Murray Ramirez, and he's here with us today. And thank you, Nicole. Come up and let me give you a coin, please. And I have to say that the first time that we began this journey of honoring my uncle was actually when Speaker Pelosi suggested to President Obama that they honor Harvey with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That was 2008. And at that ceremony, there were honor guards with the military who said, please work on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We're hiding who we are. And so one of the things that that's not mentioned, and I do mention it, and I will continue to, is that my uncle has a less than honorable discharge. And so taking down Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which our next speaker is in many ways responsible for, simply meant, and it's not simply, it's big, but you could be authentic. You can take off your mask. It means that the military would allow and tolerate everyone to be who they are. There's a difference between tolerance and celebration. And so what the U.S. Navy ship Harvey Milk is that we celebrate this community that we did not used to celebrate before. And it's a very important message for the globe to hear, because we have nations, we have over 70 nations where it's still criminal to be LGBTQ, where those institutions have not kept up with our times where we are today. And so I do tell the story because it's important. When Secretary Mabus did the naming ceremony, he did ask me to change my uncle's less than honorable discharge to an honorable one, which you're allowed to do as a family member. And I told him, no, I think it's important that this ship goes to places like Kuwait, like Saudi Arabia, like Lebanon, where it's illegal to be LGBTQ, and that give those people hope that things can change, that progress can be made. And then I got a call from the White House switchboard, and it was the president, and he asked me to change my uncle's less than honorable discharge, and I said no as well. And by the way, I thought I lost connection to the White House, but I actually had the phone hung up on me, which I understand. Not many people say no to the President of the United States. But it's very important that we teach, that we move forward, that we are not perfect as institutions, as countries, as a human race, and that we are constantly moving to a better day where we are including and celebrating everyone. I think it's important to point out that my uncle was very proud of his military service. And as Ann can tell you, when he was assassinated, he had his diving belt on. He was a diving instructor in San Diego. And so he was proud of his military service. And there's many things that I believe my uncle dreamed of for us. I'm not sure that he would have, he was very prospective, and not sure he would have dreamed of today. But one of the things that the press asked me, and I'm always asked, is if my uncle would have seen a day like today, and I always talk about it because I always get questions, if the family is sad that Harvey didn't get to see some of what he worked for come true. And my answer is always the same, that I'm not sad because he did see this day. He did see all the LGBTQ people like Raphael and everyone who would come after him. That's what gave him the courage to go into the office with all the hate mail and death threats, because he dreamed of this day. He dreamed of all of you who are there supporting LGBTQ rights. Let me just also thank all of the Harvey Milk Foundation folks, the volunteers and the team that's here. And let me also thank everybody who has followed my uncle's legacy. The legacy, as it was mentioned, includes a beautiful terminal at San Francisco Airport, which, by the way, was a struggle as well. So most people don't know that didn't happen easily. So all of these things have been struggles. But where we are today, it's very important to note that where we are today is, as my uncle would say, is a pivotal moment. There's a great video of his last recorded TV interview where he said everyone must be engaged. And it's kind of like what Ann said, you must stay engaged. You know, because we have marriage equality doesn't mean the fight ends. Because we have women in combat service doesn't mean the battle for women's rights ends. Because we have included indigenous people in the military doesn't mean that their battle ends. So the one thing that the Milk Foundation is based on is that we're not here to help each other. We're here to understand that our liberations are all bound together. It's an important difference. We don't go around the world to help people. We go around the world because we understand that their inability to be liberated will impact us negatively. And that if they're not liberated, then we are lessened by that. It's a very, very important message. Now, I really get to introduce one of the most amazing people who has really helped Harvey Milk's legacy every step of the way. This power force of a political leader had worked with Harvey back in the day when he was running for office. This person was leading the Democratic Central Committee. And when we began to work on different efforts to celebrate my uncle, this leader and her office and her staff were with us every step of the way. When we said we've got to do something about don't ask, don't tell, this individual didn't miss a step on moving that agenda forward constantly. I'll just tell you one brief story. We worked in Hungary, and when the Prime Minister, the president, who's currently the president, Viktor Orban, started attacking the LGBT community, we had a young LGBTQ activist who stood up to him that we were supporting. He volunteered with the Milk Foundation, but the president of Hungary said, I don't think this guy is going to be around much longer. So basically, he put a death mark on Milan Rosa, and I said, I got to try to protect him. I brought Milan to the U.S. All I did is one call to the speaker's office and said, would you meet with Milan and give him time? And she spent a couple hours talking to Milan and what's going on in Hungary, which you're aware still is going on in Hungary. And so this individual has had our back, not just from the LGBTQ community, and understands the global situation. She has really led the way in including LGBTQ people in every aspect of American life and global life. And so it's my great honor to, I hope you'll join me in recognizing a true hero, Speaker Emeritus Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to say thank you very much, Harvey, and following your lead. Thank you very much, Harvey. Thank you. Well, let me first associate myself with the remarks of everything that has been said here. I have a few other things I want to say, but Michael, thank you for setting us up here. And again, Louis, for encouraging the secretary to make this all possible. And on Fleet Week, we had so much fun. We had the John Murtha ship here at Fleet Week. And why I'm going to talk about connections here. The connection between the Murtha ship and this ship is that ship couldn't operate without this ship. They're all connected because of the supplies that come forward. And to Ann Cronenberg, I just love her. I said when I was coming over, I am excited to see Ann, but I'm more excited that her son is going to be with us. So this is a family affair for us today. My daughter, Christine, but the Rear Admiral has his family here today as well. So I know that's a special occasion for you. Thank you for your beautiful remarks about the military, the LGBTQ community, but for honoring us with your family being here today as well. And the captain and the crew. The captain and the crew. Let's hear it for the captain and the crew. Now, just to fill in some of the blanks here, Dianne Feinstein was one of the sponsors of the trip with Ann Cronenberg. With her passing, Paula Nero, where is she, voice, Paula? Paula, thank you, is now one of the sponsors of the ship. They have a serious responsibility, and it's an honor for the ship to have them as sponsors, and I know it's an honor for you to be a sponsor of this ship. This ship. Now, when President Obama was president, his Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, was a gentleman from the South, and he decided that he was going to have a whole new category of ships dedicated to warriors for the people, for civil rights, for human rights, and the rest. Because all the ships had been presidents or states or men who had served as generals and admirals in the military. But he said he had a new category of warrior. He started with John Lewis. When John Lewis was named, I said, John, you've never even ever voted for a defense bill, and now you got a ship. He did eventually vote for one I'll tell you about in a moment, under duress, but nonetheless, he did it. And then, and so Ray Mabus made this decision. Now, the Secretary of the Navy will tell you this, and Delatorre, who made this possible today, has said, the one thing about being Secretary of the Navy, if you have any aspirations politically, be Secretary of the Navy, because you can name ships and you don't have to report to anybody. Not the president, not anybody. But of course, President Obama, appointing Ray, knew that would be. So would we have Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General, the father. We have, I want to make clear that distinction. And I spoke at the commissioning of that. And we have John Lewis, our hero in so many ways. Sojourner Truth, an African slave who talked to presidents about ending slavery. Imagine that we had her there. And now we have Harvey Milk. So when you're in San Diego, when you're there for this, that, and the other thing, you see this big ship that says Harvey Milk on it. Now let me talk about what these ships are. These ships helped us win World War II. They supply the other ships. And their contribution to our success in World War II was so important. A higher percentage of merchant marines on these ships died in the war than any percentage of any branch of government. Isn't that remarkable? Because they were supplying the ships, and the enemy knew that they could get to the supplies, what that would be. So this is remarkable. And that day with the naming of Harvey Milk with his hat and the hat that would have been his hat. It was so remarkable for all of us, but it only continues to be so when you see this ship will last 40 years. It's so strong, and it has such a strong mission. When it leaves here, it'll go through the Panama Canal, one of the few ships that is capable of going through all aspects, all configurations of the Panama Canal. A big deal, and they will be in Norfolk by the middle of April. That's really fast, right, Admiral? That's really fast. So this is not just a naming. This is a ship of strength to enable our military to do its job, again, at high speed and meeting every challenge. So we decide we're going to have a stamp, right, Stuart? We're going to have a stamp. And we had a wonderful ceremony. We're going to have a stamp, like in about May, I think it was, right? So we go to have it, and we're having we're all getting into the mood of things, and I say, and at this meeting, I will announce that by Christmas, we will have repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And, so the president had to talk to the military, but anyway, by Christmas, we repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But connected, very much connected to the Harvey Milk stamp. Harvey would have wanted that. He wanted the stamp, but he wanted the repeal. And when we did the repeal, it took a vote of Congress to do, but it's an amendment to repeal it in the defense bill. So we repeal it and we say, isn't this great? We made history today. All the progressives and the Democrats, we made history today. We've repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Raphael, you've heard me tell this story a million times, I know. So then I said, no, you're going to make history again. You're going to make history twice today. Now, all of you are going to vote for a defense bill for the first time because we ain't got no amendment unless we got the bill. No, we never vote for the defense. No, I'm sorry, you all, but that's the way it is. No, we never, including John Lewis, no. And I said, no, well, you will. And they did. And they did. They had to. It's the only way we could pass. Republicans weren't going to vote for it, but I won't get into that. So then we have, again, the connection. Diane, Paula, Ann are doing all of this. But Harvey, just think of what the world would have been like without Harvey Milk. Everything that would come later. This is the late 70s. Just a few years later, 2 or 3 years later, we got HIV/AIDS descended upon us. And if you think there was discrimination before, now we're really talking explosively. But Harvey showed us the way. He showed us the way to fight discrimination, to always have hope, and encourage so many other young people to run for office and break records all over the country, not just in San Francisco. And so when we enabled us in a few years later when we had the majority to pass the hate crimes, to end hate crimes bill, inspired by Harvey's leadership, and hate crimes, to make it a hate crime to do violence against LGBTQ people. Then the next was Don't Ask, Don't Tell, marriage equality in the courts, but then we had to pass it in the Congress. But all along that time, funding for HIV/AIDS, and we wanted people to not only fund, and San Francisco led the way, as we said before, community-based care, treatment, and research. San Francisco led the way. San Francisco was the basis for the Ryan-White Care Act. Again, if Harvey hadn't been there and taken us to this place. And then people would say to me, when we were asking him to do this or that, well, it's easy for you because people in San Francisco are so tolerant. I said, you know what? To me, tolerance, it's a nice word someplace, but it's a condescending word. We are not tolerant of our community. We take pride in our community. We respect our community. It's not about tolerance. And nothing else points that out more clearly. There's so many things to say, and I know we've all indulged ourselves to share some thoughts about the impact of Harvey Milk. But again, he was about hope, and he was about voting, and that's what we have to keep the hope. When people say, where is hope? I always say it's where it's always been, sitting there between faith in the goodness of others that we can get something done. And he was so remarkable. I just had a word that he said. You all know it, but he talked about this victory when he was sworn in as supervisor. This victory signaled a green light to all who feel disenfranchised, a green light to move forward, and that the doors will be open to everyone. Thank you, Harvey Milk. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say one more thing about our mayor. She has carried on the tradition so remarkably, as she said beautifully in her remarks. Thank you, Mayor, for being here and staying through all of this. I know.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody who participated, the speakers, everybody who came out, the media. I think this was a wonderful event. It's always the best laid plans are subject to weather. Thank you, everybody.